Welcome to Soul Moon's Rising Tarot and our very first in the series for tarot education. Today's topic, what is tarot? And the difference between tarot and oracle cards. What is tarot? What is tarot reading? Now, tarot reading is a general term for interpreting cards with pictures, essentially. It could be anything from playing cards, it could be story cards, it could be actual marketed tarot cards or oracle cards. That is the basics. Now, each different deck has a different purpose, and depending on what you're looking at, be it oracle or tarot cards, the author may have a specific meaning for specific cards. A tarot reading is essentially the reading of the energies as they are at that moment. Now, a tarot reading can tell you the future. However, the future is subject to change dependent on so many different factors. So as it is in the moment of the reading, that is how things are and will be. But you can change your future. Outside influences can change the future. And things outside of your control, friends, family, natural disasters can change the future, can change the outcomes of things in your readings. If you're just reading for yourself, you can consult your deck any day, every day, several times a day, depending on what you're dealing with. If you're just needing guidance, if that's your favorite way to talk to your guides. I personally like to use them during meditation. I don't generally do a full-on tarot reading for myself, but maybe a couple of times a year. I would rather have somebody else read for me, so it's an objective reading versus a subjective reading. They can give messages to me that I may not see myself or that I'm overlooking. I also don't read for friends and family, close friends and family, I should say, for the same reason. So it's all personal preference in that way, but essentially you're reading the immediate energy for the future for whatever reading you're doing. Oracle cards versus tarot cards. Which ones should you use? What are the differences? Everybody has their own personal preference. I actually have more oracle decks than I have tarot decks because I am very picky with my tarot decks. So most people are familiar with the standard Rider-Waite deck. Plaid background, simple cartoon pictures, simple images. Okay, most people are familiar with this. You'll see this a lot in pop culture, movies and stuff like that, with your traditional looking tarot readers, like, I don't know, if you see some gypsy reader in the circus in a movie, she'll probably have a Rider-Waite deck. Now, there is other decks that follow similar meanings in their cards and similar features and artwork, but they'll be subjective to the actual author themselves. So like this deck here, this deck is the Crystal Visions Oracle deck. Now the cards in this deck, this is a Rider-Waite style deck. However, the actual interpretation of the artwork can have a slight different meaning. So let's see if I can find, so like the Emperor right here, you're going to find the same basic elements in any Rider-Waite style Emperor card. All right, the same basics. Each interpretation from each author is going to be slightly different because art is subjective. Now, I have a deck like this one here. This is my Star Child by Danielle Knoll, and she has many of the same cards like the Sun, but she also has different cards like Serenity or Oppression. So Oppression would actually be what would be referred to as the Devil in most Rider-Waite decks. There's the Star card. So there's very similar, but there's also differences. Like I said, each one is subjective to the author. And this deck also has an Akashic card as well. So that is slightly different from the Rider-Waite. Then you have ones that are almost identical, like this one is just much more detailed. You can pull more information out of the cards by what really comes to you from the different, the images and the colors and, you know, what's actually going on in the cards. So that's tarot. Now let's look at oracle cards. Oracle cards are all different. You have some that are single-sided, like these. You have some that are double-sided, like these ones, and they come for all different reasons. So this one is my Work Your Light deck. This is all about working your eternal, internal light, your soul purpose. This deck here, my Yogic Path deck, is very similar, but it gives messages on things you may be going through, how to work in the next step of your path, and so on. But then you also have like this one's all about self-care. This is a self-care deck. So you can use it to research which self-care thing you want to do next. So it really depends on what you want out of your deck, on which ones to choose. I personally go for things that really call to me. I may see a deck on somebody else's channel and say, I need that deck. That deck needs to be part of my collection. That happened with this one. I saw it on Rustling Around. I saw it on his channel and I knew I had to have it. It's the sister deck to the Light Seers Tarot that I already had. So this is the Muse Tarot deck. I do have a unboxing of this deck on the channel, which I will link up here for you. So you can look for that if you choose to. So the difference between tarot and oracle cards are going to give you really a story, and almost no matter what deck you pick up, you can get the same story from each deck. Now, my personal decks have different energies to them, and they like reading different things. So for me, if I'm answering love questions, I will go with my Crystal Visions deck. If I'm answering finance, career questions, I go with my Tarot Illuminati deck. And that's just my personal decks. They have communicated with me through all the readings that I've done, what kind of questions they like to specialize in. So your decks are just as unique as people are, and oracle decks are the same way. Every single one is unique and has a different purpose. So you'll see a lot of us readers that have multiple decks. Now, I have a very small collection compared to other readers here on YouTube, but it is kind of growing all the time. I get a new deck at least once a quarter. So at least 4 times a year, I get a new deck. This year, I've added several tarot decks and a couple of oracle decks already. So I'm about 1 a month right now. You kind of need it depending on what you're doing. I mean, if it's just for yourself, 1 deck is absolutely going to do. But if you're going to really get into this and start reading for friends and family or for other people, then you do want to have a variety of decks, both tarot and oracle, so that you are prepared for the questions that they're going to ask you. Now, my question to you, what decks have you seen? What decks do you have? Okay. Do you have a standard Rider-Waite style deck like this one? Do you have a not so standard, but still kind of sort of Rider-Waite like this one? Or do you have something completely different like the Wild Unknown or a Thoth deck that are completely different than Rider-Waite, but you still love them and they still called you? Do you prefer oracle decks to tarot decks if you have one or the other or both? So let me know your thoughts and really ask me your questions. What is a question that you have that you would like me to answer during this series? And I will absolutely get that in the queue for you. So until then, have a great rest of your day. Blessings.